So I thought I would take a chance this year and start my seeds in something a little bigger. So yes, I'm gonna use more soil up front, but I'm minimizing my work. So I'm only gonna do this once. I'm gonna fill this with dirt. I'm gonna plant a seed in it, and it's gonna stay in this, Lord willing, until I transplant it out to the garden. Hey you guys, we're gonna start some seeds today, and I thought I'd show you my process. So I'm out in the sunroom. It is raining, but I thought I'd share with you just a little bit about some resources that I use and have used. This book, The Backyard Homestead, has been really helpful for me in getting started with really all things homesteading. So gardening, chickens, canning food, dehydrating food, herbs, medicinal uses for those. There's beekeeping information. Literally everything you could want to know for homesteading is in this book. So check it out. You can probably find it on Amazon. Also, the Old Farmer's Almanac handbook. This was actually given to me, and it's a really good resource. You've probably heard of the Farmer's Almanac before. Our grandparents and great-grandparents have used it to know when to plant things, so great resource also. And then lastly, this one I love a lot. This one is specific to my region, so North Carolina, and how to grow great vegetables. So Ira Wallace is a gardening guru, and she's affiliated with the Southern Exposure Seed Exchange, which I've gotten some seeds from too, but this one also is great. It has some nifty charts that I use a lot. So as far as knowing when to plant, I've mentioned this in another video, but so you want to know what the anticipated date is for the last frost. Of course, this is not perfect. Sometimes it's spot on, sometimes it's not. For my region, I've heard anything as early as like April 9th to April 15th. Some people say that there's always one after the 15th, but this year I'm gonna be using April 15th as my last frost date. So one thing that I do is I'm a big proponent of writing things down. I don't like to use my phone for a lot of record keeping. I'm just old school pencil to paper. So I use a journal, just a notebook like this. And I don't know how well you can see this, but I write down PLF for prior to last frost, and then list out how many weeks prior to that. So I'm using April 15th as a last frost date here, count backwards. So February 11th is about 9 weeks prior to the last frost. So I'm planting things now for 9 weeks before our last anticipated frost date. So I just list out for each week when I'm gonna be, or what I'm gonna be planting. I do tend to do Saturdays as my planting day. Sometimes you just can't keep up, so I do the best I can. So today, I'm gonna be seeding a lot of different things. I'm gonna seed some celery. Celery takes a really long time to germinate and to get going before you transplant it out. Parsley, peppers, lettuces, arugula, cilantro, carrots, and basil. So you might be wondering, like, carrots don't need to be started from seed in a pot, but I'm actually gonna be putting those in my green stalk. So you're gonna see me doing a multitude of things today. I am going to be seed starting in these new 2.5-inch pots that I got from Bootstrap Farmer. You know, I splurged a little bit and spent some money to buy about 240 of these. They're super durable. I'll be able to use these year after year. And I took this tip from Roots and Refuge. If you don't follow Jessica, she's an amazing wealth of resources and has got years and years and years ahead of me in this, but she's a fantastic channel to follow. But she uses these cups. And you know, when you start things from seed, in the past I've used little seed trays like this. There's nothing wrong with these, okay? But do you see the size difference? How much smaller this is than this? So if you start your seed in here, that's great. It's gonna grow and it's gonna do well, but it's not gonna be time to transplant it out in the garden before it needs to be repotted. So I thought I would take a chance this year and start my seeds in something a little bigger. So yes, I'm gonna use more soil up front, but I'm minimizing my work. So I'm only gonna do this once. I'm gonna fill this with dirt. I'm gonna plant a seed in it, and it's gonna stay in this, Lord willing, until I transplant it out to the garden. Seeds, I keep my seeds in photo boxes, I guess you would call these. You could get these at Michael's or probably on Amazon, but these are made for pictures. They come with, I think, 12 in a box, and they go inside a larger case that I keep in my freezer. So You don't want seeds to get hot and you don't want seeds to get wet, so they stay super cold there. I also took the advice from Whispering Willow Farm and decided to go ahead and organize my seed packets by when I'm gonna plant them. So in years past, I've just taken out my entire seed container at once, and I had them sorted by fruits, vegetables, cucumbers, peppers, tomatoes, and I would go through and pick out each one. Well, this time, as you can see, this says February 11th. And I already have all the seeds that I'm gonna plant this week right here handy for me, which makes it super simple. So next week, I'll go get February 18th pack to keep things nice and organized. As far as what we're gonna plant into, so if you're just getting started in gardening and you go to your big box garden store, you're probably gonna see seed starting mixture. There's Jiffy brand, there's Miracle-Gro brand, there's all kinds of brands, right? There's nothing wrong with that per se, but I will tell you from experience that there's not a lot, if any, nutrition in that. So it's gonna be just enough medium to get your seeds started. It'll help it germinate, but it's not gonna feed it very much. So if you're gonna use a container like this to keep in for several weeks, for example, I'm gonna plant my tomatoes in this, but I'm not actually gonna be putting my tomatoes out in the garden for another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks, okay? It's gonna need food between now and then. So I'm opting to use potting soil this go round. Potting soil is gonna have organic matter, it's gonna have a little bit of fertilizer, it's gonna be a little more dense than your seed starting mix. It's not as light and airy, but it is gonna provide a lot more nutrition that your seeds are gonna need in the long run. So I'm gonna try it this year. I have a feeling it's gonna go really well. I did add some peat moss to this. I probably put 20% peat moss to 80% potting soil just to sort of water it down or dilute it down, if you will, because the potting soil is more expensive. So I'm trying to just spread it out a little bit if I can. So I'm just mixing this up a little bit here. And I'm gonna go ahead and fill up my seed cups, and we will plant in our seed cups first. So you might be intimidated when you hear me talk about starting something from seed, and that's understandable. I get it, right? It's easy to go to Lowe's and buy a plant that a seed was already started and it's already matured a little bit and it's ready to go in the ground. That's easier. But you know what it also is? It's more expensive. So you're gonna spend a lot more money on an established plant than you are to buy a pack of seeds. I just bought a pack of carrot seeds for $3. There are 1,500 seeds in that. Now, that's probably a bad example because you're not gonna go buy an established carrot plant. Carrots don't like to be transplanted, so that's definitely something you wanna direct sow in your garden anyway. But my point is, a pack of seeds is far less expensive than an entire plant. Seed starting is not hard. Seeds want to grow. That is what they were made to do. They want to grow, and given the right conditions, and they need 3 things. They need moisture, they need warmth, and they need light. They prefer sunlight, but obviously in this sunroom, we're not gonna get a perfect condition to mimic outside, so we're gonna use grow lights. And as long as you're giving the seed those 3 things, it will grow. You can, seeds will grow. They will do that naturally without much help from you. So you can plant in anything. You can plant seeds in an eggshell carton if it's all you have. You're gonna have to transplant that into something bigger later. But you can use red Solo cups. I've used those before. You can buy cups like this. You can plant in a styrofoam cup. I've seen people plant in old toilet paper rolls. You can literally plant in anything. Just do it. There's something about the sound of this rain out here that is just so peaceful to me. I used to actually have chairs out here and a table, and before I started gardening, when we first moved in the house, this was my quiet time spot where I would come and sit out in a chair and just read the Bible and pray and just have some time alone. And once I realized that it was perfect for gardening, I kind of converted over to that. But this tray, I don't know if you can see this, but I am putting my seed cups into this is called a 1020 tray. There are no holes in the bottom of this, and that's for a reason. They do make some with holes, but this particular one is solid. And that's because we are gonna bottom water our seedlings. Seedlings don't wanna be drowned. So you're gonna water them from the bottom for the best results. Meaning you pour the water directly into this tray and it goes up into the little tiny holes in the bottom of the seed container to get into the soil. You can, once they start to germinate, mist them, get a water bottle and just like spray them down if you want to, but you definitely don't want to take a watering can, dump it on top and drown your seed out. I have done that before, and the seed actually came out of the pot. It was so tiny that when I put that water in, it just flooded it and it sent it out. So you live and you learn. But this tray is gonna hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times 4 rows. So it's gonna hold 32 seed containers. I should probably tell you that this soil is moist already. You want your soil to be moist but not soaking wet when you plant into it. I keep a heater in this room just to keep the ambient temperature up a little bit. There is ventilation at the top of the sunroom, so we can open this up when the temperature changes just a little bit. All right, so we've got 32 seed containers in our tray. My arugula, these were seeds given to me by a friend, so I'm actually gonna plant these in the green stalk. Carrots are gonna go in the green stalk. Radishes are gonna go in the green stalk. Lettuce, I'm gonna do both ways. So we're gonna plant several different kinds of lettuce. This first variety is from Seed Savers Exchange, Grandma Hadley's beautiful lettuce. I'm actually gonna do some here and some directly in the green stalk. On the back of the seed pack, you can see how many seeds. This one has 500. It's gonna tell you how far the seed likes to be planted. So this likes to go 1/4 inch deep, and typically a good rule of thumb is you want your depth of the seed to be double the width of the seed. Lettuce seeds are tiny, so you wanna go 2 times as deep as the seed is big. It says it takes 7 to 10 days to germinate. And it also is going to tell you how far, if I were planting this directly in my garden, how far it would want to be apart. So it only likes to be 1 inch apart. So when I plant it in my green stalk here in just a minute, you will see that I'll go by these instructions. Not everything is the same. Some seeds need a lot more spacing than others, so you definitely want to use your seed packets for information. I always like to say the seed packet is going to trump any information in a book that you have, because bear in mind, the book is going to be generalized. So it's going to generalize information for lettuce, whereas this is going to tell you specific to this variety of lettuce. This is an heirloom seed that has been around since 1915. And we want to go by what this seed wants. You can see these are teeny tiny. Here's my pencil here. So I'm just dropping these seeds in little tiny holes I made with my pencil. It actually might be too deep. I'm gonna fill this back in. And a lot of times with tiny seeds like this, it's okay to just sprinkle your seed on top of the soil and then cover it. I am opting to put 2 seeds in each container just in case one doesn't germinate. I've got another one in there. Now, what you should not do when you start seeds is go out and spend a bunch of money on unnecessary things. So I've got an old yogurt container here that I've used to scoop out some dirt. I'm just gonna cut this into strips for labeling my seeds. Remember, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. So looky there, we got 4 little labels. So Grandma Hadley 212, putting the date on there just so I remember. I know I have this written down elsewhere, but this tells me that this whole first row is going to be that variety of lettuce. Since I already have these lettuce seeds out, I'm going to go ahead and direct sow in my green stalk. And green stalk is a product that's new to us this year. Super excited to be using it. And there's some free resources on their website. It came with a planner so that you can write out what you want to plant, how many of each, and you want to do your smaller plants on the top and your larger plants on the bottom. So lettuce can get medium-ish. So I'm not gonna do these all the way on the bottom. I'm gonna save that for something like Swiss chard. But we are going to go ahead and put our lettuce toward the middle of our green stalk. Green stalk has already been watered. Because I have strawberries planted in the top of this, it is already watered. So I don't have to do that today, but you do want to do that before you plant into this. So you can see that our soil is moist. You see the color difference there? And put this here so that I know what's planted. Lightly cover those up. Easy. So I'm gonna be planting lettuce and carrots in succession in my green stalk. What that means is, because lettuce is gonna come in all at the same time, right? If I plant it all at the same time, it's all gonna be ready for harvest at the same time. And we're not gonna be able to eat that much salad or lettuce. So I'm gonna space it out to about every 2 or 3 weeks. And I'm gonna plant 3 different kinds of lettuce today. In 2 weeks, I believe I'm gonna plant those same again, and then in 2 weeks, I'm gonna plant those again so that we have lettuce to be able to harvest over time instead of all at once. Okay, so we got our first variety of lettuce planted. Lettuce is something that does really well in a container. So I learned last year, if something does well in a container, there's really no sense in taking up space in your garden, right? So we aren't planting any lettuce out in our garden beds this year. I'm going to only use my green stalk for lettuce. So I'm starting these lettuce seeds in my green stalk now. I'm gonna let them germinate here in the sunroom until I see that they need to be put outside. I don't really know how long that's gonna be. I've got strawberries planted in this too, so I'm taking a risk here, but I hope that I'll just intuitively know when it's time to move that. And if for some reason the lettuce that I'm direct seeding into my green stalk does not germinate, I'll have these backup seedlings to transplant into the green stalk. But otherwise, I'll just sell these. So I want you to see from my perspective here, this second row is where I just planted the 3-heart lettuce. Can you see those teeny tiny seeds right there, and right there? So we are just gonna very lightly cover these. Remember, they only wanna be 1/4 of an inch deep. So can I tell you something? You might be surprised at this. I don't do this perfectly, and you won't either, and that's okay. Because you know what? I just got this pack of seeds for celery, which I've grown for the last 2 years. And you know what it says? It says start indoors 10 to 12 weeks before last frost. I'm late, you guys. I should have done this already. But you know what? It's not the end of the world. This celery is going to take about 10 to 20 days to germinate. And it's gonna take about 100 days to be ready to harvest. That's a long time. And that means 100 days from when it goes out into the ground, right? So I'll still get celery, but I might not get it as soon as I could have, okay? Those numbers do matter. You do wanna calculate how many days are between your first frost and your last frost. Last frost is April 15th. First frost is November 11th. So it's important to know how many days you have in between those 2 days so that you can tell if something takes 100 days to come to full maturity to harvest, you might miss your window. Celery likes to be planted very, very, very shallowly. So I am literally putting these on top of the soil and just barely covering it up. And I'm gonna try a little experiment and plant some celery directly into my green stalk. Since it's a taller plant, I'm gonna do it in the top. So I got our first tray seeds all done, and I'll be wrapping up this video tomorrow because it's time for me to go. So bottom watering is really a nifty way to water. And you know, yesterday this had about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch of water in the bottom, and you can see now that it's all dried up. So these plants have taken what they need from the bottom, which is an awesome way to do it. And they're nice and moist on the top. So this is how I water my seeds too. Obviously these are strawberries that I transplanted. These were not started from seed, but same concept. So I thought I'd show you what I'm using for my soil for seed starting. I've got this bowl that was my great-grandmother's that I used to mix up soil. And I'm not gonna use seed starting mix this year. Just gonna use potting soil, trying to minimize my steps and how many times I have to touch these seeds. So since I'm not planning to repot them, because we're using the larger cups from Bootstrap Farmer, I'm not gonna have to repot them. They're just gonna go straight into the ground. So I am adding some peat moss to this potting soil. I'm sort of watering it down. Just because, why not? You know, peat moss is going to be lighter and airier, and it won't hurt the plant, I don't think. So just add a little bit. Just to save, this is a lot cheaper than the potting soil. So I'm just going to throw in a couple handfuls here. And a handful of perlite. Perlite helps with drainage. And then just give it a good mix. Sorry for the outfit change here. It's obviously a new day. I wasn't able to get all my seeds done yesterday, so I am picking back up where I left off. And I did get everything planted in the green stalk I wanted to plant, and now I'm gonna plant my peppers. Peppers take a long time to germinate. They need a lot of warmth. I do use a seed heat mat. Only have one, so I can't put it underneath all of my stuff. So I added some water to this soil here in my bowl, just so it's nice and moist when we get started. So a 10 by 20 tray, which is what this is called, will hold 32 of these 2.5 inch seed containers. It's a good amount, right? And they actually fit in really tight so they don't fall over. One of the disadvantages I found with using solo cups in last year and the year before is just with the shape being circular, they don't tend to stand up quite as nice. Well, they stand up, but then they kind of squish because they're bigger at the bottom than the top, right? So I like these that they are slender and they fit nice and tight side by side in the tray. So as I've mentioned, I'm planting more than I need for my garden. My heart was really warm last night because I saw some family. We have dinner on Sundays at least once a month with a lot of my cousins, and it's fantastic. And my cousin's wife has gotten into gardening, and heard her 11-year-old daughter talking about how they've enjoyed watching my videos and are eager to plant some things. And that's really what this is about, you guys. If one person watches a video that I make and is inspired to grow their own food, I can't even tell you what that does for me. Because somebody inspired me too. I never really had a dream to do this. It was just something God said to do. And I gain inspiration from seeing others around me. And I hope that this channel is that for you also. If you haven't subscribed, I would really appreciate that. You can just hit the subscribe button on your phone there, and that way you don't miss anything that we post. Because this is potting soil, there are some bigger chunks in it, but I just crumble those up as I notice them, no biggie. So we are gonna plant some peppers. I'm gonna do several varieties. I have King of the North red pepper from Seed Savers. Got some jalapeno. These are some seeds that I saved from last year, and I think they're from a green pepper. I left them out on a paper towel and can't remember if they're green or red. Got some sweet banana peppers that a friend gave me, and we actually saved seeds, and another that a friend gave, the shishito pepper. Started for the season, and I am pretty tickled about that. So we will be filling up these shelves over the weeks to come. And my gardening work until next Saturday is done. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. God bless you. Have a beautiful day.